how not to go insane when you study mysticism, esotericism, and all those mystical practices. Because for me, it was the core thing. A lot of people who I saw going into that direction, you didn't really want to be friends with them. It feels like they are not basically living this reality. They somewhere over there. They don't truly enjoy their life. They just always seem afraid, always seem they protecting from something, and always seem so overthinking and overcomplicating, yet showing that they have so much knowledge that you just don't know what's wrong with them, but you actually feel that. So in this case, when I decided to study it myself, we will break it down in more details because it's no point for you to study something if you're not benefiting from it, if you are degrading as a human being. What's the point of that knowledge if it's breaking you down? Okay, so first thing first, key thing where you gotta remember is to be real. Pay attention to what's truly going with your life. Pay attention to the four main things: your health, how you're doing in terms of health. Are you getting healthier? Is your physical well being improving? The way you sleep, the way you do physical activity, what you eat, what you drink every single day. What's going on with it? That's the number one sign. If your health is declining while you're doing something in this field, in the field of mysticism, then yeah, perhaps you're doing something wrong. Perhaps you're doing something that goes off and breaks you down mentally and physically as well. Second thing is finance. If you're struggling financially and you're looking answers somewhere else and you ignore the actions, for example, you just imitate a lot of activity when in fact you don't create value, when you don't build anything, you don't build a product, you don't help others, it's just going, or it's going at the same level, or it's just going really slow. So your financial progress is slow. It means absolutely the same thing that, okay, there's something not exactly right with what you're doing. Maybe you still gotta learn a lot. You shouldn't stop learning in those fields. Next one is relationships. That's the key. And when I talk about relationships, it means relationship with your partner, with your parents, with your friends, with your colleagues, with your kids. If you feel like you're having even more conflicts and people just, whoa, saying, okay, dude, you absolutely crazy, and they just stop any contact with you, that's a sign that, okay, something is off. That's okay. That's absolutely okay when we switch our communities, when we grow, when we have new friends. But when you're doing complete nonsense and your relationships just breaking and falling apart, and you after that don't have any peace, okay, it's a sign to pay attention. Maybe you're doing something off. Your life is in ruins. Your life is going into the direction that you never intended to go. And the last one is purposes, that you have the reasons to live. Sometimes here, in your case, it might be so overloaded, you're thinking about so different problems that you just, yeah, lose yourself, lose the control. And here, the ultimate unit would be the feelings. Because every time we try to build something based on feelings, we often face huge challenges. What is the feeling? It's not a 0 and 1 and plain just like in math and just like logic. Our feelings can be so intense we can't even imagine. For example, if you have negative history, for example, with your parents, let's say you've got problems with your dad, and if you're gonna go into mysticism, and that feeling will appear even stronger, like 10 times stronger, 1,000 times stronger, what's gonna happen to you? Well, you might do things that would have huge consequences for your life. And you know, don't want to like say a lot about the things, but sometimes you can choose death and suicide, which is absolutely wrong. It's definitely not the way the life is intended to go. So all those basic values, once you notice that something is really crumbling, it means you've been deceived, which happens all the time to people. It's okay to be deceived. It's not okay when you keep fighting and proving the point which is not supposed to be proven, which bringing you back into the darkness, back into the disastrous lifestyle. So, what's really important to know before we study anything mystical is the knowledge of subconscious, knowledge of the basic psychology. So you will be able to identify manipulation techniques, you will be able to identify when people lie to you, you will be able to not only analyze but to feel when something is off. Someone is trying to make and build their cause and effect relationships to deceive you and use you in your own interests. That's the thing. When we described all those four things, health, wealth, relationships, and purposes. I lost this one. That's why I used the plan, because for me, talking long, it's not something that I'm used to. Yeah, when trying to deceive you, they often use you in your own interests. So your interest is going at the second place. You're just like a battery, like an accumulator. You really gotta pay attention to those things if that's gonna happen. That's why you should never betray trust, by the way. Trust is the one of the greatest units that we have. If we have no trust, we wouldn't have not even this house, not even this civilization at all. So yeah, make sure that's really important. If you feel like you not gonna help someone, it's better to not to do. Not to do it means you're not ready, and yeah, your intuition is telling you the right thing. That's why classic framework is so important, and I never gonna discourage people against studying classical tools, standard psychology, so you will be able to spot those things. The next part is choosing the right pathway. Just like religions, there are a lot of stuff. For example, some people choose to study Christianity. Some people choose to study Islam, Judaism, South American practices, Aztecs. Here is going to be the same thing. When you explore the entities and the world around you, you gotta understand and form your values. For example, my greatest value and my greatest concern was divorce, because I was never interested in those magical words, sending curses someone. I never pursued this field to gain the power of the others. So my motivation is not based on the insecurities and fears. Sometimes a lot of people who go into the government, they are craving for power because just look at their faces. They are short, they ugly, and that's basically the only way they can satisfy their insecurities. A lot of things, a lot of times people do the same, even when they go to psychology, to get that power instead of truly helping people out, right? So here, really important take, you gotta understand when you're gonna see like, different spirits, possession, entities, who created those entities and what's their mission. That's the thing. Someone created that, and someone who created that, do they really want you to struggle? Do they really interested in punishing you, or are they actually here to teach? Are they here to teach you what you're doing wrong? Because again, look at the negative feelings. They just signals, they are the sign. They are the sign which shows you what are you doing right and what are you doing wrong, where you lie to yourself. That's simply it. That's simply it. Because a lot of things, a lot of guys who study mysticism, they tend to take away personal responsibility. They always start blaming some creatures, some sessions, possessions, entities, essences, that it's their fault. They are generational things that keep destroying us. When in fact, maybe they are destroying you, but they also teaching you. So instead of seeing everyone as enemy, see them as your allies.